me a god. You call me a god. You call me a god. You call me a god.
Let's go. I'm about to go off like a weapon. Fuel to the top, got a filled up engine. In my thoughts, obsession. I will not stop, no, I'm never second guessing. I got a God complex. Haters love to hate, but I never feel pressed. Got a lot on my plate, but I never get stressed. I'll take all the pressure like I'm acing this test. Tear it up like I'm Jason. I see the world like it's ready for the taking. I see this place like a game I'm playing. Straight to the bank to collect my payments. No negotiations, it's my way, I was born impatient. And like a damn Freemason, I'll run this nation.
You call me a god. You call me a god. You call me a god. You call me a god.
I don't know how to stop. I just go till I drop. Whether it's working or shots, give it all that I got. You can watch me work in my element. Anyone in the way is irrelevant. You wanna cross me, cool, not intelligent. Cause I don't forget shit like an elephant. Go ahead and tempt me, put it on the line and you'll come up empty. If I got time, I'm deadly. Never caught off guard, no, I'm always ready. I got a hand real steady. Look me in the eye and you'll see no hezzy. About to get real messy. I'll put you in a grave 6 feet like Kenny.
You call me a god. You call me a god. You call me a god.
What's good, everybody? It's your boy, Reckless Ray Dinero, and we are back at it again with another episode of Future Financial Strategies. Look at the calendar. Good Lord. It's Thursday the 28th. Fighting our way through. Partway through the week. Almost to Bag Fortification Friday. This is a 3-paycheck month. And normally, by this time, we would be doing a financial breakdown for how the dust settled last month. Unfortunately, we got one more paycheck coming in, so I got one more distribution. Then we get to tally it up. I'm tracking a couple of additional metrics because I like to know how much money I'm getting into the market every month off my meager wages. You know what I'm saying? We gotta. It's not about how much you make; it's about how much you're keeping. And I pride myself on how much I get to keep. This is the top 10 things you do that are keeping you poor, but I'm going to have a bonus 11th one that might be a little bit controversial. Ooh, controversy. I love it. But we're going to dive right into it. Once again, make sure you guys, if you've tapped in, obviously those of you who rock with me, make sure you're liking, you're sharing, you're subscribing. I will be streaming this live probably a few hours before Guns and Butter. Guns and Butter this week will be starting closer to the 6:30-ish time, and we will be wrapping up around 10:30. Going to do 3.5, 4 hours. We'll see what it is. But just wanted to put that out there because it's Ray's on-call week. Ray's generally has even better sleep, and I had some of the best sleep numbers that I've had historically in a long time, probably like 2 to 3 years last week. And so we're looking to expand upon that and see what we can do on a week that I actually get an opportunity to take naps and stuff. We running on these naps and we're getting stuff done. I'm feeling great already. We're going to be working out. It's going to be good. Now, we're going to start off with the 10 list, and then we might throw that 11 in, or I might branch that out and make it a whole episode. I'm not sure yet, but we are on that drive to 500 subs. We've got some magical things planned for the community once we hit 500 and hit that magical monetization mark. There's really nothing else to say about that. We're just driving towards it. I can see the numbers going up. It's a progress when you're not bowing and trying to dive knee deep into the algorithm. It's a grind. It is a grind, and I'm talking about stuff that I want to talk about, and I'm going to continue talking about stuff that I view as important that I want to talk about. I'm going to give you the real information. So we're going to jump right on into it, folks. Let's get it going. So the first thing that you are doing that is keeping you poor, and we've talked about this before, but I'm going to keep grilling these in because we're going to do this side, and then we're going to do the flip side of the coin for the next episode. So number one thing that people are doing that is keeping them poor, and this is no surprise, you're living beyond your means. We've hit an all-time high, record high debt. It's over $1 trillion. You're living beyond your means. You're trying to impress people that do not care about you. You're trying to ball out. You want to show the algorithm that you're flying. You flued out. You going on all these trips. You're going on all these festivals, and you brag about it. You're like, oh, I'm gonna be broke, which means that you're saying that you're gonna be broke to go have this one experience now, so that you can have a terrible life later. When you could have just waited till you could pay for the experience and not fumble the entire bag to go. But you needed to show off for the algorithm. You got to let people know you're going places. That's fine. You're also letting people who know that you broke, which is cool. That's cool. I mean, it's keeping you poor. You're going to sit there and you're going to talk about the system. The system's making you poor. Like, no, Nancy, you needing to go on that girls trip so that you could post on Instagram and Facebook to flex on people that you're going somewhere makes you poor. These are personal decisions. There's no system that forced you to spend that money. There's no system that forced you to take the job that you have. There's no system that forces you to live beyond your means, to buy that car you can't afford, to buy that vehicle that you can't afford, to flex on these hoes. Brad, there's no one forced you to do that. So the number two thing we're doing is that is keeping you poor is not having a budget. Now, this one, as you all know, I am not good at budgeting. I just generally tend to force myself to not buy stuff that I can't afford within 2 or 3 payments. Like it's just the way that I function. Like I don't know if it's an ingrained budget that I just live within a certain wheelhouse and it works, but like I am not granular with my budget. Like I do get notifications from my wealth tracking app that I use. If I spend more money than from month to month, if my spending is going up, I do track that and I do keep an eye on that. And if it's over $300, I kind of I start looking at what I was doing that month. I go somewhere. Did I have a trip? Did I do something over the weekend extra? Did I go out did I take somebody out on a nice date? Did I take myself out on a nice drinking spree? Did I go hang out with the guys that weekend? But outside of that, I personally don't budget, but I do understand the importance of having a wheelhouse that you're in so that you know that you're working your way towards your financial goals versus away from them. And most of you don't seem to have any direction, which means if you're not making a plan, you're planning to fail. And that's a very dangerous waters to be in financially, especially with how things are going right now. Number 3 on this list is not saving or investing. And I know for a fact that a lot of you, especially, I mean, this one falls on the ladies because y'all follow up this trip. Oh, I went on this really nice trip. I went over to Europe. I was over there for a couple of weeks. Oh, I'm gonna start back at 0, but I'll build it back up. You caveat the flex with the fact that you got nothing left, which means that you're not saving or investing. You know what would have been a great idea, Stephanie, is if you would have saved the money, put it into the market, got some residual dividend passive income coming into your account that you could have then used to fund the trip. So that way you can go on a trip every year and not pay for it out of your hard-earned money. But that's too much to ask because that requires patience, that requires planning, and that requires delayed gratification. You don't want to do that. You'd rather just save up the money. And I used to do this myself. Like before I got used to having money, I would sit there and like after I'd accumulated a couple of $1,000s, I'd be like, dang, I got a grip of money. And I would go spend the couple of $1,000s and bring myself back down to zero and start the process over again. Start pushing that boulder back up the hill, starting over at zero, doing that repeatedly until I realized that like this is going to be a terrible life if all I'm doing is saving up $2,000 at a time to go back down to zero. What if a problem that's over $2,000 arises? And, you know, we had to make some pivots. We made some adjustments and we learned some discipline, some financial discipline, and we learned how to strategize with our money. We started realizing how money worked. We started realizing what money was, and we started realizing the game that we're in. Because you're in a game, you're in a competition, whether you want to acknowledge it or not. And the people who save up $2,000 and go back to zero are not gonna do well in that competition because they're playing the wrong game. Number 4 is you are making only minimum payments on debt. This goes back to that $1 trillion breachment point that we broke as a country with our debt. You're racking up debt and then only paying the minimum payment. What are we doing out here? That sounds like a terrible way to navigate life. The stress of that. I keep telling people, pay your debt off and see how that sleep changes. The sleep hits different when you really don't have to worry about the unsurmountable hill of debt that you're living under. You can navigate a little bit different. You got a little breathing room. You got some moves that you can make. You got some different options, especially if you have good credit, because like then you start having some of these future financial strategic options that your boy Reckless Ray Dinero is exploring on how to flip that debt, how to use that debt appropriately. Instead of buying things, buying assets, which expands your wealth. You use that debt for wealth expansion. But you can't do that if you're only paying the minimum payment, which means that you're probably also missing some payments, which means that you're catching those finance charges, which means that you're catching those late fees, which means that you're one step away from going to collections, which means that you're almost about to get your wages garnished. Now, see, these things are all very stressful scenarios. Having your wages, having the threat of having your wages garnished, having to call up the person about to garnish your wages and have to cut that deal to make that payment plan back, just to have the next credit card that you skip payments on. Oh yeah, I know, because Reckless Ray Dinero's been there. I've been there. To have the next credit card in line file that same case against you to garnish your wages. It's a snowballing effect that could ruin you financially. Like, fortunately for me, that scenario didn't play out the way that they wanted because your boy has good lawyers. It's always important to have good legal representation, folks. But yeah. You paying the minimum, that means you just scraping by, but you're still racking up a balance. You're never chipping away at the principal. The debt's staying there, just riding on your back. Like, that's just a lot of weight if you don't know what you're doing. Like, carrying debt, period, is a bad idea if you don't know what you're doing or you don't have an intent or you can't explain it beyond, well, I had to do this. I wanted this. I wanted the Gucci belt. Like, that's not a good place to be financially if you're trying to have a future. Ladies, if you are talking to a man that is in this situation, you'll know, because he's going to be walking around stressed and pressed. Not a keeper, even if he has all the nice things. That's not a good one. That's a dud. You're signing up for failure. Long-term failure. Might be cool in the short term, but you sign up for long-term failure. Number 5. Not having an emergency fund. Now, this one I'm also a little controversial on because I have a bare minimum emergency fund that I run like a bank. And now that emergency fund's actually growing, it's getting active. You know what I'm saying? Not necessarily for emergencies, but for large purchases. Because like my emergency fund is in the market. I believe in having all the money working. I don't like sitting stagnant cash, even with the 4% interest rate. That is not beating inflation. So me personally, My emergency fund, my immediate funds is very minuscule. I keep like maybe $500 on hand. I'm no Anton Daniels. I don't have major problems in my life to where I need to get it all the cash right now. I have in my life, as somebody in the, I guess as he would put it, firmly in the middle class, I got maybe a $500 problem. I mean, I had to get my tires changed. Getting the tires changed, found out the rims was bent. Which, fun fact, people, if your rims are bent, it makes your car drive as though your suspension is going out. So I thought I was going to have a larger expense, which I have access to that money. But I didn't. I was planning that down the road because, I mean, the car was driving. And like me personally, I'm a drive it till the wheels fall off type of person. But we're sitting there at the tire shop that I go to. Love those guys. And he informs me, he's like, hey, your rim's bent. And he was like, this is going to drive like it's a little bit off unbalanced, but it's because the rim's bent. He was like, we can repair it. And I was like, go ahead and repair it. And he was like, oh, well, it's going to be, I was like, don't worry about it. Just go ahead and repair it. Why? Because I have an emergency fund that's in the market that I could have cashed out easily and covered whatever the cost was going to be for him to fix the bent rims. That's the whole premise of an emergency fund, is you're not having to go into unsurmountable debt to cover small expenses. So I got my rims fixed, got my tires. Car drives like a brand new vehicle now. Wasn't the suspension, it was just the rims. It's it was under $500. But I have that $500 nugget in there. Now, the way that I use my immediate emergency fund, that liquid emergency fund, is anytime I have to touch that money, I pay it back plus 10%. That's the interest that I charge myself to use my money. For those of you who are familiar with in-home banking, I apply that principle to any time I have to use my money out of those funds. I have specific accounts, and like when I leverage the Cash App play, if you go back a few I don't know how many episodes buried back it is now, but if you go back a few episodes, the Cash App play, I do the same thing with that money. I pay Cash App back there 6%. I pay myself 4% on top of that, because anytime I borrow money, my premise is I'm paying back 10%, and it just goes into the pool. Now, that allows me to grow that liquid cash position a little bit to where I can, it'll scale itself up, and eventually it'll be some really big problems because I tap that whenever I have a quick fix it. Oh, I need to do this. Cool. Tap that. Pay it back with the interest. Grows the account. But I don't just throw my money out for free. Like, I mean, I'm very complex in my head with how my stuff is, but it's very simplistic. If I have to use my money or I'm borrowing a tool that I am utilizing, regardless of what it's for, I pay it back plus 10%. That's my number. So when interest rates go back down and Cash App goes down to 4 or 5% like it used to be, instead of 6%, I get a bigger cut. When I utilize leveraging my crypto at 0%, I get all that. It's 10%. Now, if I want to go above that 0% marker, because like I have a certain amount of funds that I can borrow for 0%, if I go above that and a 6%, well, now I'm only getting 4% back, but like I still pay back the 10%. That's how I manage all of my emergency funds. So I always, within 48 hours, I can have access to basically however much money I need, and I can handle comfortably an immediate, if I needed to, a $50,000 problem. No questions asked, because I have good credit that I don't use. So I have all the cushions in place and the ability to backstop the cushion regardless. So like your emergency fund, I believe in and of itself is a strategy. I might have to do an episode on that. I'm actually going to make a note about that now. I'm going to do that. I'm going to do that for you guys, because That's something that could be of value because people don't think about that stuff the way that I do. Because everybody's just like, get a lump sum of money and just have it sitting there, and you just got this money and you can look at it and oogle over, and it does nothing but lose buying power. We don't play that way over in the Reckless Ray Dinero household. Number 6, impulse buying. This now, actually, you know what? I really don't impulse buy. Now that I think about it, like if it's something that I want, I'll make a plan for it. Like I'm getting ready to upgrade my phone, not to the latest. I was looking at getting the latest iPhone 15. I mean, I'm going to have to look at how the hundreds of dollars difference, but I'm really thinking I'm probably just going to get a 14. So that way I can keep my current iPhone as a backup phone. So that way I can have an iPhone and then an iPhone as a backup phone. So that way when I'm streaming, I can get the Cash App notifications when you guys donate to me. So I don't have to look like an idiot because I don't have a phone is the reason I don't see a lot of those notifications. So I think I'm probably going to do the iPhone 14 and then wait for the 16 Pro Max because I've looked at some of the teasers about that, and that's a phone that's actually very interesting to me. And the upgrade from my 13 Pro Max to the 14 Pro Max, it still has features that I'll use, and the camera is still better. It's going to be enough improvement for me to get me over until the 16 comes out, and then I'll use my account for that. But it's impulse buying. It's people seeing something and having to get it immediately versus seeing something that you want. And I do have that inclination. I feel it. I'm like, oh, I should get that. I want to get it. But then I'll go back and be like, I'm not going to blow the bag right now to get it. I want to figure out how to chunk this out so that way I'm not having to pay out of money I don't have for it, is the way that I look at it. I look at it as a large purchase, and I'm like, cool, we'll break this up and it'll be in chunks versus, or I'll save up for it until I've got 80% of it paid off. And then I'll be like, cool, I'll finish the payoff next paycheck. Like I don't like just buying, because like you'll rack up so much debt that way really fast, and it's dangerous. Like you'll be in a bad spot. Now, number 7 is one that I definitely don't have a problem with, but I understand. Number 7 is you're not regularly reviewing your finances. Now, me personally, you guys know this because you get an episode about it. I review my finances every month. Every 30 days, I get a snapshot. I know exactly where my net worth is going. I know exactly how much I got into the markets. I know how much I saved. I know where my accounts are. I have to touch on every single one of my accounts. So I got to physically get in there and look at it. And it's good for you. You start paying attention. You care more when you're reviewing it. Now, I'm not meticulously looking at it. Like I close out end of month and I can go back and like the way that I track it, I keep it in spreadsheets. So like I can look at the previous month and go, and that's how I tell you guys from last month to this month, we're here. And I can go back as far as I want. If I want to go back to the beginning of the year, okay, we started off at the beginning of the year. Now we're here. This is the growth. And then as I add stuff that I'm tracking, I can be like, cool, this is what we invested this month. This is how much we got into the market this month. These are the buckets that it went into. It's important. What you look at, what is tracked is improved upon. And most people do not track their finances. They do not track their wealth. I understand that a lot of people, there's a lot of discrepancy over the net worth game. But I'll tell you this, reviewing your finances every 30 days, regardless of whether you're wanting to compete on net worth or whatever metric you want, if you have to look at your finances as a whole every 30 days, whatever metric you want to say is most important, income, how much you're saving, what your cash flow is, all of that's covered in your monthly finances. All of it. So I do this because I track my net worth. But guess what? Any other metric that somebody wants to compete about, I can pull up immediately and be like, cool, how much did you save last month? Like, how much are you saving? What percentage of your income is it? How much did you make last month? How much did you make side hustling last month? How much did you make that was outside of your W-2? I can pull all those numbers immediately because I track my net worth. And those are metrics that I do track additionally because I like to know, like, how much did I make streaming last month? How How's this in relation to this following month? How's this go? What day, what week did the live stream hit the hardest? Did we get any donations outside of the live stream? I've got the banner down there. As Dr. Umar says, hit the Cash App. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you're not tracking it, it's probably not improving. Matter of fact, if you're not tracking it, it's most likely going the opposite direction of what you would want it to be going. Number 8, you avoid financial education. You're running 100% because nobody wants to take that hit on the chin that you're doing something wrong, that you don't know. People hate saying that they don't know. They hate the part of growth that is the most important, and that's the part where you're wrong, because that's how you grow. If you're just right all the time and you know everything, you don't grow. You don't want to sign up for Patreon groups. You don't want to join the membership tier to get exclusive access, to get early access to stuff, to maybe get your questions answered. You don't want to pay for a consultation. You don't want to get a financial planner to help you because that's going to cost money. You don't want to sign up for the coursework or become part of a Patreon or become part of a group to learn the information that you need. You want it for free. And then when it's for free, you don't actually act upon it. You just like to say, you know that. And that's another important piece. We got to stop talking about what we know because we read it. What have you implemented? What strategies have you utilized? You know, like as far as I'm concerned, if you've just read something and not actually experienced it, not actually done it, not actually able to talk about something, you say everything doesn't work with no context because you've never actually done it yourself. Oh, well, I heard that doesn't work. I know about it. Oh, I've heard that strategy doesn't work. I know about it. Have you done it? No, you don't know. And if you don't know, just say that. We got lanes for a reason. Like, you don't go to the doctor and the doctor's like, I don't know, but you just gonna let him operate on you? Like, I don't know. Like, no, he knows. He's supposed to know. That's the reason these people are in these fields. But until you try it and apply it yourself, you don't know. You know of. You've read about. You can pontificate. But until you start implementing some of these strategies, like, you don't know what you're talking about. Like, when people tell me, oh, well, like, you can't use your debt. Like, yeah, you can, because I do. Like, literally, I'm sitting in a house that I bought. I got people in here that's rent hasn't gone up in 5 years, while all of you have had to move. I know some of this stuff works because I'm doing it. And I've done it. And I understand. Again, I'm no Anton Daniels. I'm not at the top of the mountain, but being in the thick of it adds a great bit of context to knowing what works, because, like, you're working with me real time. Like, I'm still sitting in this room. And here pretty soon, we're going to be looking to add it's going to be a different room, because the next house on the list of things that I have to have is going to be a dedicated studio space, because I am going to scale this. Like, the stuff that gets donated to the station is going into the studio. But let's move on. Number 9. We're getting towards the end of the list here, people. Oof. This one is a good one because it hits both sides. Being overly risk averse or overly risk taking. Now, see, that's twofold. You're either scared to take risk at all. I don't want to lose anything ever. My account's never going in the red. You're not going to be a good investor, because that's not going to happen. Or overly risk taking. I'm betting the farm. I'm going to gamble, and I'm going to continue to gamble. I'm never going to set any money to the side. Now, I've done one of these. So when I was younger, I had one experience where I was overly risk averse. And it was when I was in school. Shout outs, Raytown South High School. And I was in junior achievement, which, for those of you who don't know, junior achievement's a special class that you can get into that teaches you economics. And I took that class because I didn't want to take geometry and trigonometry because I wasn't good at math. I wasn't good at that type of math, which is funny because I work in a trade now where I use geometry all the time, and I've actually acquired a skill for it now that I can apply it to something. But sitting in a class like doing geometric equations, like I could not do it. I couldn't do it. And you know what else I've got now? Calculators. They told me I wasn't going to have calculators, so I was just like, well, not doing any of those jobs. But I got myself into this junior achievement class because it's business related, and I am really good at financial math. That clicks for me. Always has. So I got into this class, and we had to develop a product that we were going to sell at the school. And we sold these little squishy dice, and there was some other promotional thing that we sold, and we would sell them during lunch, and we sold them all the time. And as we were building, you had the opportunity to invest in the company. Now, when I was in high school, I did not hardly have any money. Actually, when I was in high school, I had my own money. Like I was self-reliant. So it was like the money that I was making. And I was just like, I can't afford to lose. Cause like they told us the risk. They were like, this could go well and we could make some money. We could break even, or we could lose money because we got to buy product. And if nobody buys anything, then like you don't get your money back. Now, high school, reckless Ray Dinero, that scared the hell out of me. I was like, what do you mean I might not get my money back? So I didn't invest. Went through all the other stuff, showed up, showed out, but I'll never forget how upset I was when we did make money and everyone who bought into the company got their money back when we shut the company down plus a dividend. And they made like, I think it was like 30 or 40 bucks a person after it was all said and done. And I was feeling some type of way because like while I didn't lose anything, I missed out on that opportunity to win. And I've carried that with me for the rest of my life. Like, so I've been in the overly risk-taking side of this equation because of that experience that I had, because like I know what the other side of that was. I know how that feels. I'm like, dude, like this could be life-changing. Why am I not doing this? Why am I not all in on it? Why am I not figuring out how this works? That's the reason I am the way that I am with crypto. Because I know that this is a life-changing opportunity. I know that that space is where things are going. And I know that it's going to afford me the opportunity to do other things. Now, what I will say, though, is that is the high-risk bucket. I'm going to actually have to make a note for the crypto bucket system. I'm going to do that for you guys over on the Crypto Portfolio Updates channel. But over in that space, there is different tiers of risk, but you take the riskier stuff and you use it to fund the less risky stuff. So for me, it's crypto and real estate and then my portfolio. But I'm kind of edging over towards getting my portfolio going harder, because that is another source of passive income that has less management needed for me than the real estate. So like if I can get that built up to where that can handle a house payment, even if that's just that, now I've got my money working for me and I'm covering a house payment. And we're going to rock out like that. But yeah, like it's interesting because people who are scared to lose anything won't take any opportunity. So they're on the slowest path. Now, the person who is overtly risk taking is swinging for the fences every time. Like everything, Babe Ruth, just home run. I'm going for the home run. Now, that could also be bad in the sense that like if you don't hit, you just throwing money away for a long period of time. And like you might get all your at bats out and like you ain't never got on base because all you did was swing for the fence instead of getting a bunt so that you get on first and work your way to second and then get to third and then get a home run, or have somebody come behind you and get a pop fly. And now you get the home, you make it back home. You want to hit the home run. So you swinging hard every time, but you miss him. You know, you got one swing, one shot every time. That will also lead you to be broke forever. Now, if you scared to hit, you ain't never getting on base either. You gotta find that happy medium. Like you gotta do both. But like we had the episode where we went over the buckets, the high risk bucket, or the get rich bucket, the stay rich bucket, and then the retirement bucket, or the living, what is it? The get rich, stay rich, and lifestyle. You use the get rich bucket to fund the lifestyle and stay rich bucket. It's basically the way that that's supposed to work out. But you got to get some hits, and you got to make sure that when you do get those hits, you set something aside. Like you've got to be backing yourself up. You sitting out here gambling with the entire portfolio, and you make a bad play one day, and now you're back to zero because you ain't got nothing passive coming behind it. You could have been building up and having your trading portfolio with something where you got some stuff passive in the back, where you building that portfolio up so that you can stay rich. But you want to gamble the whole bag. Doesn't make sense. Like you don't keep any of your profits, so that way you just keep going until you strike out, and now you lost. And lastly, I'm going to make this the bonus one. I'm going to make that an episode because I could talk about that for an entire episode too. So we're going to do that. So it's only going to be the 10. I'm going to keep it the way that I originally intended it, because that was what my intuition was saying. I feel like you guys got 10. I feel like we got a lot of value out of this. I feel like we've been putting in the work. So number 10 and the final one is falling for get rich quick schemes. This would tie into the overtly risky people. Everything's, oh, you going to get rich tomorrow. Oh, you going to make a plan. And the crypto guy on the internet said you was going to get rich tomorrow. This next coin is going to be hot. It's going to 1,000% tomorrow. It's probably not. Most of the time, when somebody's is trying to, if it's going too fast, if the timeline on it isn't actually thought out, if you're not looking 5-10 years down the road, 5 minimum, if 5 is fast, to be honest. But some of these opportunities, 5 could work. 5 could work. If it's going too fast and it sounds too good to be true, it likely is. I mean, I'm not saying that like some of these opportunities you don't dip a toe in. You know, if it's going to go 1,000x, throw 100 at it, lose $100 on a meme coin. Maybe you're right. And now you got $100,000 off $100. Okay. Could you have gotten more? Yeah. Are you going to be greedy? Yeah. Oh, okay. I mean, you can do that. Throw the whole bag at it and see where that gets you. Because most of you aren't cashing out with the $100,000. You ride it back to zero. Like I've seen it. I've seen what happened with Dogecoin and Shiba Inu and Pepe. Y'all, and then y'all on TikTok crying about it. We got to stop trying to plan it for everything tomorrow. You gotta make plans, like actual plans, not like 24-hour plans. And that's what I'm going to leave you with. This is a long-term game. The NBA that we need to be aspiring for never broke again. That NBA is a long-term game. It is not a short-term game. It's not you getting signed to the NBA and you rich tomorrow and never broke again. We've seen the articles about what happens to these financially illiterate athletes that got all kinds of bags thrown at them. And then after their career's over, they're at a used car dealership, or they're sacking at Price Chopper or your local grocery store, whatever it is, Kroger's, whatever. They joined the NBA, but not the right one. Not the right one. And we need to be aspiring to do better. We need to be looking at this as empire building, your financial empire. You are building a mini empire. Your family, your household is a business. And if you don't run it as such, you're going to lose to people who do. You might have some nice trinkets along the way to being homeless, but you're going to lose to people who do, and then you'll sit there at the end of the game and be wondering at the late stages in the game where everybody else is getting to have all the good times that you decided you wanted to have early and right then, why they get to have what they have and why you have what you have. And the reality of it is it boils down to your decisions. I hope you guys tuned in for the whole video. That's In closing, we're going to say, that's what I think. But why don't you guys let me know what you think? Am I off? Am I wrong? Tap in with me down in the comments and we'll have the conversation. I do read my comments. And I do respond to pretty much all of them. So tap in with me and let me know what you guys think, because I've given my opinion on all these things. But, I'm just a guy on the internet just struggling to navigate this financial battlefield that we find ourselves on, and sharing some of the information and insights and context that I've gathered in my experience on what works for me. But everyone's financial toolkit's going to be a little bit different. So let's talk about it down in the comments. Let me know what you think. Make sure you've liked if you haven't already. And if you hate it, give me a thumbs down. Thumbs downs work too. Give me that negative feedback. I'll take it. And then share and subscribe. And if you have subscribed, make sure the bell notification's on so you know when these drop. Because, like I said, once we get to 500, it's going to be important to have that notification on. So we're going to have some stuff going. We're going to have some stuff popping off. This is your boy, Reckless Ray Dinero. And up until next week, actually, until later, because we will be doing Guns and Butter this evening. So if you want to tap in and talk about this live, definitely do that. Because we're going to be building up to have some of these conversations, and the chat does dictate what we talk about. So if you don't want to come up and you want to ask your questions in the chat, tap in with us in the chat. If you want to come up, camming up is optional. Unless you're a troll, then I need to see your face. But camming up is optional, and you can come up and ask your questions too and join in the conversation. It's your boy, Reckless Ray Dinero. Till next week, I'm out. Peace.